Hi my friends, my name's Ryan Freeman. Welcome to my life. Welcome to this channel. Today I guess I just wanted to talk about nothing. I don't know why. Whenever I try to make a video about a specific topic, I sort of, especially if I write it out, I start to get like preachy or teachy. I don't know if it's from years of going to church under the influence of preachers. I don't know if it was years of working as a teacher and instructing students. But I really don't like that side of me, and I really don't feel that I figured it out any more than anyone else. So perhaps what I really enjoy about making videos is the spontaneity that can happen when you have no plan. And I guess perhaps I'll talk about that. For me, life is most alive when there's no plan. When I went backpacking, this was one of the big gems that I discovered. I had plans, and those plans were thrown to the wayside as I met various people that pulled me hither and thither. Hither and thither. I don't know if that makes sense. But the more spontaneous I am, it requires no plan. It's probably one of the reasons my favorite philosopher is Alan Watts. And he talks a lot about Taoism, which is the ancient Chinese philosophical system that sort of the ideal life is a life of no plan, of no forcing anything. Of different than the Christian Western upbringing that I grew up in, which is make a plan and charge forward with your sword of God or your sword of war. I really like that, and maybe that's one of the reasons I needed to go out to Asia to sort of temper myself. The climate that you grow up in has a profound impact on how your personality develops, but as you travel and meet other people and work different jobs and go to different places and try different experiences, your personality, of course, you're still you, but more and more layers and parts of yourself can come alive, or perhaps lay fallow or get submerged. I don't know if that makes sense. It made sense as I said it. So I guess for me, and probably for most people, we're always trying to find the right balance. We're always trying, we weren't born with a user manual for how to operate our life. We're given guidance from our parents or from our leaders or our teachers, but they don't really know what's best for us. They have ideas, and there's conservative ideas that have worked for many people in the past. But ultimately, we all have to find what works for us individually. A lot of writers like Aldous Huxley or Carl Jung or many other writers have talked about how perhaps the most dangerous part of the modern world is its tendency to fit all of us into various parts and functions of this massive apparatus of civilization, like so many different parts are workers on a conveyor belt rather than one holistic craftsman that once existed. That as society advances and civilization advances, we become very specialized. Perhaps it's telemarketing, perhaps it's as a lawyer, and we have much higher and more advanced skill than our ancestors of the past, but they were more holistic. And if you compare the typical man who lived in the 1800s, he wouldn't be as good on a computer as I would or you would, but he'd know how to put a horseshoe on a horse and fix a barn and tell the weather by just looking up at the sky, and probably was a pretty good singer, spending so much time outside, and singing was apparently, from what I've read, a much more common human activity. So as our society becomes more specialized, we get geniuses in specific fields that could have never existed, but almost as, if you specialize your personality, let's say, as an example, you go into academia. You started your academic career and you were very curious, you were very open, but you might go down that corridor of your specialized field so far that you become a little less open and you sort of get hedged in within the dominant paradigms of thought that you're studying. But you're the best at that. Like a doctor, I once taught a doctor in Japan who was an expert on the kidney, but not just the whole kidney, but one specific part of the kidney. And when I would ask him medical advice about other parts of the body, there were obviously, he knew a lot, he was a doctor, but he was so specialized in the kidney, one part of the kidney, that the rest of the map of the body was a little more gray. Whereas doctors a long time ago, they had to know everything. And in fact, from what I've studied and heard and read from experts of history, is that doctors a long time ago used to actually be not only doctors of the body, but doctors of the soul, because there was no split between the soul and the body, or material and the spirit. I know those terms aren't always the same, soul and spirit, but you know what I mean. Like the shaman, according to thinkers like Terence McKenna and other people that I've listened to, he was a healer of the soul, a healer of the body. He was also the artist. He had many, many functions, and he did all of this. And as such, all of the parts of his personality were fulfilled. Whereas a doctor who only specializes in the body, and I think this is one of our strengths in Western medicine and also one of our weaknesses in Western medicine, is that they look just for the material cause. What parts of your body, like a part of a car, is broken, and they don't look at you holistically. And if you've ever had like a serious mental breakdown or a really rough emotional patch in your life, you know that your physical energy and your physical health is so intertwined with your mental health. But we're able to do things with Western medicine that our ancestors never dreamed of. So there are benefits. I'm not saying there aren't. But I suppose the most difficult part of life for me is I want to be whole. I want all of me to be here in this life. I don't want to shut off the sadness or the anger. I don't want to be sad or angry all the time, but I want to be able to feel that. And our society sometimes sets some emotions as bad or negative or unwanted or undesired. I read an article that in Japan there were a lot of service workers who had become mentally ill. The title of the article, I think it was like Death Through Smiling, because they were expected to always be happy, always to smile. And I think our culture always wants that. And of course, I love to smile. I love to laugh. I love to be happy. Who doesn't? I love love. But to force yourself to push your emotions, which you can't really do, to always sort of personify the positive look or the positive mode of being, the positive attitude that our society values, I think it comes at a detriment. Just like you see a baby, babies haven't been sort of, you could say, corrupted or educated, depending upon how cynical or realistic you want to be. But babies, they show the gamut of their emotions: crying, sadness, fear, anger, laughter, and it's all genuine. I think the key to health, both physical and mentally, is genuineness. I think that's, you read a lot of novels, like the good novels, and psychology, and that pretty much is what it's about, right? No repression, no oppression, sort of being real with who you are and other people. So I guess writers have talked, like Aldous Huxley writes a lot about this, as well as a lot of others. I'm just talking about the people that I know most intimately, about how difficult it is to do in the modern world. And I think if I've looked at the statistics throughout the years, and you could tell me if this is true, that mental illness is really high these days. We have acts of terrorism and mass violence that I asked my grandmother, She's in her 80s. She never saw this kind of stuff when she was younger. And I think that a lot of it comes because there's parts of us that if it's not addressed, it leads to problems. It's like, yeah, I don't want to be sad, I don't want to be angry, but if I pretend I'm not, I push it under the rug, it explodes later. Carl Jung, the depth psychologist, thought that was a cause for a lot of wars. In the 1800s, they were so optimistic that there would be no more great wars. Everyone believed in this idea of progress. And World War I shattered everyone's idea that we were actually progressing. It was the most devastating war Europe had ever seen. It's atrocious, too. And machine gun fire, people used to charge, and they saw wars as somewhat a heroic thing. People loved to go to war. It was a chance to prove their bravery, but it wasn't until modern warfare had really kicked up in the early 1900s, maybe also the very end of the 1800s, that you couldn't charge, you couldn't be heroic. You had to sit in a trench or in a bunker, or now behind a screen. War's always terrible, but it's a little less, I would say, heroic or humane these days. So yeah, finding wholeness, finding activities, and having all of your personality, all of, not just in my head. I read a lot. And when I read, and I like ideas, and when I talk about abstract ideas, I do tend to get a little in my head. And sometimes I need to put the book down and just look at the trees swaying, or listen to the birds, watch my neighbors, and then it sort of calms me. I read somewhere that your senses, sight, touch, hearing, are a great way to sort of cleanse your mind. And in fact, Alan Watts said that hearing is a great way to go into meditation. Just hit that bell, hit that gong, or just concentrate on the sounds that you hear, or your breath. So I like thinking, I like sensation, but I also like feeling, like really being in my feelings. And trusting my intuition, all of our faculties. Whenever I get lopsided, when I'm only thinking, I think this was a big problem in my 20s, where I wasn't only in my thinking, I was in a lot of sensation as well. But I sort of didn't acknowledge my feelings and didn't trust my intuition. And so for me, one of the biggest helps in my sanity, it doesn't necessarily mean that it makes people like me more. It doesn't do that. People want you to smile and always say the right thing, but you have to be real with yourself. But if you're real with yourself, then when you do smile at someone, it's actually genuine. The relationships you have are actually real. And I find that to be the most valuable thing for me anyways. Health before wealth. Mental and physical. Anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about. I didn't actually think I was going to go onto that topic, but I guess I did. My name is Ryan Freeman. Thank you for watching.